It's a nice garden, Alice. I'm assuming you're here, Alice. I'm just going to assume.
Um, I guess hello is probably the most appropriate. I really think there's a proper greeting that would really convey.
You're the other one.
Yeah, but I guess depends on point of view, but I,
Well,
based on what I know, probably the other one is probably the most apt term. Yeah,
considering I know what me and Alice are, I know what you are.
just a very tired, normal person, I guess.
There's nothing normal about the Inquisition.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that probably this idea that they to themselves are like, no, we're going to be as normal as possible is part of where the issues stem from. But then with you having immortality, I don't think we have enough time for that conversation.
I'm Sol. It's nice to meet you.
No, it's good to meet you like in person. I guess I'm Tristan, Trist, I guess depending on when you're talking.
Yeah, no, when is always the conversation. I guess Jen is what I was known as.
I'm guessing
Mm.
assuming, and I mean, like, I don't want to make any presumptions, but we probably had different circumstances. So mine is more of a where than a when. But I don't know. Again, I'm sure if I had that conversation, space, time, and time unifying would be, again, a whole other conversation that would, I don't know, I'm
Uh,
sure the Venture and the Sombra can debate it till whatever the next apocalypse comes back.
I'm sure there's another one coming. Mine is definitely a when, 800 years ago, but also last week. Well, a couple of months ago now.
Yeah, fair. Now mine is a couple of kilometers up and 40 years ago. Yeah, I say it is nice to finally have a chance to sit down and talk. I don't know. I guess I'm just assuming the same that the whole games that got played, everyone secrets got spewed around either. But I'm
Hmm.
sure again, at least based on what my team and what they conveyed, not entirely willing to base my opinions on things that they've said. They can have a tendency to miss details or over exaggerate or under exaggerate.
Yeah, I I feel like the Inquisition gives us a bad rap, but not always. Sometimes it's entirely justified.
I think it should be a case by case scenario. I mean,
We are, in fact, individuals.
I feel like the more modern the Inquisition tries to become, the more
Hmm.
antiquated they become. There's this idea of like, no, all kindred are the same.
It
Uh,
comes full circle every now and then. It's like all kindred are the same, but what if they were all different? Maybe they are individuals. Let's try and get along with it. All kindred are the same.
yeah, it comes full circles. And I guess
Mhm.
a bit of an ironic comment nowadays, but I'm a I'm sure you probably I'm a guess unless you're remarkably well informed, which you may be, but I have a fair few questions, and I'm guessing you probably do too.
Yeah,
But yes, so
I
uh,
mean, ask away. I feel like Alice is the most informed out of all of us, but
well, I don't even know where to start really, but I don't think. Well, I guess we would remember if we'd ever met. It's kind of, I feel like it's strange. I mean, I don't know if that's ties into it somehow, some sort of quantum
Hmm.
entanglement of. I think I met everybody else but the pair of you, and I don't know. I'm from what the original team they didn't get around as much, but the new team definitely get around plenty. I mean, I know
Hmm.
whatever the soldier fellow, and I haven't personally met, so I don't know their name. I think
Charlie.
Charlie, yeah, excellent. Then I know Charlie and Locke
Hmm.
had their whole thing, which I guess if the two of them, like I know Locke was giving info to Charlie, Charlie was actioning that info, vice versa. I can,
Maxie seemed quite interested in Yeah. Was that her
I,
name?
I know Maxi and Tanya seem to like, I guess, I mean, children nowadays. They like attracts like, I guess, and Delilah somehow, I mean, Delilah, previous work experience, so.
Yeah, that was a constant. That was an interesting constant.
Yeah, the reference checks, I think, for the Inquisition need to be updated a little bit.
The first time around, she she was Inquisition and then forgot she was Inquisition when she got turned.
That's a trick I'd like to learn. Um,
I would like to learn how to get her memories back.
uh,
I know someone who could show that to you if you wanted.
You're lucky I'm used to you doing that, Alice.
How are you, darling?
Getting there.
And our new friend, I see.
hello. Well, I guess I'm not even going to make the assumption of you about whether you're a mark. I'm just going to have the blanket assumption that you know more than I do, which is a pretty rare thing nowadays. So,
It's
yeah.
so nice when they start off on the right foot.
I have learnt to assume that everybody knows more than I do because I seem to be constantly missing the mark.
I feel like that, I guess, depends on if we subscribe to the idea that what happened previously did happen, or if it didn't happen and we just remember. Otherwise, I'd say you're probably in the top three of most informed individuals on the planet. But again, assumptions.
It, it definitely happened. I have vivid memories of what happened.
I guess that's why we're here. What happened, or why
Mm,
happened?
I guess that's the $64 million question, isn't it? Perhaps if we piece it together carefully, we can come up with some semblance of a continual storyline. And if not, we can at least draw a line in the sand and move forward,
Hmm,
whatever that looks like.
sounds good.
I'm definitely ready to move along.
Well,
I'm so very glad to hear it, darling.
anyone want to volunteer to go first, or do we have? Why don't we could just go along and interject alongside as it goes as the story flows.
No, Alice and I started in the same spot originally in Sydney, though we ended up in Alice Springs under different circumstances.
Yeah, I'm guessing the plane was involved.
That plane,
The plane was me.
Oh,
of course it was.
I brought some children from elsewhere who were supposed to work for me, and instead they destroyed almost a century's worth of books and furniture. Your lot, Professor, dealt with them?
well, they weren't my lot back then, but
No, they really weren't.
you're not wrong. But yeah, there was a seemed to be the sort of the MO back then. Remove first, see if we can figure out what questions to ask second, but
Mm.
hopefully, well,
Tidier times.
yeah. Oh, about that. But yes, yeah. So the I guess I was here already. Well, I mean, I guess already. So,
Mm.
from how I measure time, as a a still beating heart, is a probably a lot smaller scale than the pair of you. So, but from my point of view, I was here from where I was at the start. But
Mm.
um,
A week before everything went to shit.
oh yeah, no, no, I was here. I was here long before that.
Mm.
Likewise.
Hmm.
Yes, we got sent here.
So yes, it seems to be more of a like hard to pinpoint what the actual cause is, but the symptoms are something whatever this X event was. You were sent here. We retaliated. Alice responded, and it just was a flow-on effect of chess move, respond, respond, chess move, respond, respond. But
A cycle, one might say.
yeah, it's well, I mean, you know what? Like, cheers. It didn't happen again yet, so we're doing better than last time.
Does anybody else keep looking at the shadows in the corner to see whether or not that's a portent of doom this time? Or is it just me?
I know from so far my experience, portents of doom come in the appearance of giggling children and
Mages.
yeah, yes, yeah, mage. That they're definitely portents of doom. A bit again, that's the same thing. Everyone's got their own idea of what the apocalypse is going to look like or what utopia will look like. Maybe we're just three people that got stuck in someone else's utopia.
It just looks so different this time around, and I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest.
Like for me at least, elephant in the room. How got here? Like we know about, there was the tree,
Yeah,
there was the under the below the earth,
the salt mine.
yeah, or even below that, but I
Mm.
guess. Um, and how I got here was some external factor entity that I don't know. again, this is where like the idea of like quantum entanglement potentially, but the whoever they someone who was in timeline one knew
Hmm.
information, if I was excuse the term, but of timeline quote unquote two,
Hmm.
and it went the other way instead. They knew how to get someone to there, as opposed to someone from timeline two knowing having the memories of that. So I don't know if again it's a sort of shared thing where everyone if you exist on both at the same time, you know the information, but
Mm.
There
they
was an individual known as the doctor who seemed very well informed, while everybody else, apart from, I'm guessing, we three, had a reset of memories of sorts. He seemed
Mm.
to understand what was going on, though
He was never
getting
very
him,
helpful.
I'm sure he thought he was. We just couldn't translate.
Sorry, I don't speak Malkavian.
I
essentially
don't wish that on anybody.
better when the Malkavians don't speak.
Well, sometimes they say
They
something useful, but it just sounds unhinged every single time.
They speak in riddles and symbols. Some call them mad, some call them oracles. It's kind of hard to tell which one you're speaking to at any given moment. They're all connected,
Maybe that's just it.
apparently.
They all know what
Mm.
the other ones on the other timelines and the
Oh,
yeah
look, to
Essentially.
be
first one.
perfectly honest, I haven't the foggiest, and I've kind of had more important things to worry about.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Well, but that's how I got here. Someone was like knew, they said that we're going. That I, they
You
knew.
had someone who had knowledge of both timelines.
Yeah, somehow I don't know what level it was, and even without being a Malkavian.
How did they bring you here?
Um, well, so if I don't know again, like geographically, there's the tree and there's
Hmm.
the pit near the tree, and
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
they, my team and everyone decided that even though I thought it was a perfectly reasonable thing for, we had this giant pit of nothingness, whatever was like, the majors
Hmm.
coming in, why don't we send them through there? They decided no, it's a better idea that to throw me in there. And so they did that. And
Oh, you were a sacrifice as well.
oh, that wasn't unusual. That was a daily routine in that
Mm.
back then. But and then yeah, it landed here. And then I guess we called them Jeff, which
I
again,
know, Jeff.
yeah, Jeff from Timeline One said
Hmm.
peaceful and nice, but Jeff from Timeline One said like, nope, this is meant for you. Threw me down there. A
Oh,
couple of broken bones, exploded organs, whatever. Maybe I'm sure the two of you are used to it later. I thought I'd be lucky enough to just finally get some rest, but nope, Jeff decided, nope, that's not what's on the cards, and fixed me right back up and said, you get to do this all over again. Which, I kind of appreciate it. It's a bit of a back to the future moment. I probably could have made a lot more money predicting things like Bitcoin and Google, but, again, I had other things on my mind, and
mm.
now I'm here with slightly less eyesight, but a better wardrobe.
So it sounds like neither of you chose the fates that you were handed.
No,
Did you get a choice?
Curious.
to
Every
some
step of the
degree.
way.
I'd love to hear. I said mine was literally a long drop, sudden stop.
I sat and I waited for 800 years for a time to reverse.
Did you ever consider ending it during the 800 years? Did you try?
No, because I knew that my coterie was suffering in agony while I suffered in silence, and I would not leave them to their suffering alone.
That too is a choice.
So,
Mm.
but you said 800 years as time reversed. So,
I
did
sat in that in that by that tree for 800 years,
okay,
and when I was finally allowed to leave, it was 1 week earlier in a different timeline.
interesting. Did you like what like I mean, did time like did you have any idea of time itself reversing, or did you and like did was the tree like separated from whatever like we call time?
I had no sense of
Turn.
anything.
Okay, cool. So, what about you, Alice? You
She
have
stabbed her friend, and then you disappeared.
They asked me to stab them.
True, they chose it.
Oh, well, at least one of them. One of
Mm.
them tried to go out on their own means, but Tremere are going to Tremere, and then the rest of us pick up the pieces, don't we?
Mm,
I'm guessing if, well, yeah, so if I just, you can indulge me for a minute, if I can try and take a stab at how it went. I haven't even had anyone to share this with, so I don't know all my theories myself.
mm.
That Dasha thought that they had the answer in some very vast arcane ritual that needed to be completed. I'm trying to remember what Delilah's sire's name was, if it's still consistent as well.
Lorna.
Lorna.
That's right. There's Lorna. Um, Lorna, I know I'm trying to. I never really had a read on Lorna. I can't imagine Lorna being spending time, and I don't mean this in any insulting way, so forgive me, and I apologize if it seems that way, but spending time with you lot, I feel like if someone who had the same personality as Delilah did so, just wouldn't have a good time. So Lorna either thought ending it all was a good idea because it's something which it was a bit too hard and fun, and I can only assume Winters did up until his last breath spent the entire time blaming every other person but himself and stating that he could have done a better job.
His eye was always a little bit sore after the laptop hit it.
Good.
But no, Winters was taken away by the Fae.
Oh.
After walking back from the garden,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you're calling it now, he came to where we were staying, ate some Fae food rather foolishly, and as such was claimed by them.
Was
Yeah.
that the cookies? I
Mm-hmm.
had to smack them out of Delilah and Charlie's hands.
You should have let them eat them. It would have been so much more fun.
No.
I mean, I feel like it's almost sort of I guess Darwinian doesn't really like the theory work when talking to people like yourselves, but I guess the thing like the amount of times I told Winters, when I was talking to Winters and the conversation wasn't about the various ways he was planning to kill me. Maybe we should, just open up the odd book now and then about the things that you're trying to capture and hunt and see how you go. But this is a man who puts, for ease of access, the open all the cages button next to the cages. So, you know what? I don't know.
Who do you think helped him design things?
Sure, at this point, I have to ask, like this, like, was this a long game of just you were gonna hope to let him do it, or what? Like,
Look, he came back a significantly better individual than the first time, but
you're not wrong.
the garden was a playground, sweetheart. I would go there and play chess with him and almost always win. And we would come up with things that we could do to benefit my endeavors. I'm sure he got some benefit himself out of it. I mean, he had a very good budget, I hear, until it all came crumbling down. One little word in the wrong place, and well, the house falls like a house of cards will fall.
Yeah, I never actually. I weirdly enough, I actually took him at his word when he said he didn't have the budget. But I guess also Dash had a pretty substantial budget as well. So I mean,
Precisely.
it goes in from the Bahari put in, the Bahari put out. It's all a cycle, as you
It's
said.
all a delicious game of hokey pokey.
I
Now let's move it all around.
can only imagine that like games of chess with Winters, like just saying like the aim of the game is to take the king. I could the only thing
Mm.
I can imagine doing is reaching over, taking the king piece, and going, "Did I win?" But
Mm.
um,
It seems like you were significantly more involved with each other than our little coterie.
I mean, I don't know about that. Max, yeah, I enjoyed.
Other than kidnapping Maxie.
I mean, I feel like that may be misrepresentation. We got a letter saying, please come and have a meeting with us. We did. We sat and had the meeting. Maxie spent, I feel like, and I'm not going to begrudge Maxie this whatsoever. And I feel like once, you're looking at time as a never-ending scale I guess I don't know if that's how you look at it now still, or it's just a wheel spinning. But a lot of time on some elegant prose and poetry, and then when the actual meeting occurred, I don't think Maxi was fully prepared of what the reality of the Inquisition was. Like, it's kind of like going up to a great white shark and saying, like, I'm willing to let you take a nibble, but please don't eat all of me.
That sounds like Maxi.
It
Yeah,
sounds very much like him, at
I
least back then.
Mm,
it's really hard to try and talk to, which is why I'm enjoying this conversation. Hard to talk to anyone really and be like, why don't we look at this as a, holistic sort of system instead of just what's the car driving right in front of you. But
mm,
yeah, that was just the immediate needs were kind of what were prioritized.
mm,
Again, also at that time, I was the positions that I held. The Inquisition was just a machine of stab, kill, stab, burn, and then maybe somewhere down the track we can think about what are we stabbing. Let's just go
mm.
back to stabbing. Hopefully, it's different now. I wouldn't necessarily say better, but a bit more different. Yeah. Okay. So, is there like when you said you got given a choice? Was there a reason you chose what the pair of you chose, or like I'm assuming so people don't make choice without any reason, but like was there an immediate reason you thought this is why I'm going to make this decision, or
No, I didn't really. The only choice I got was to wait. My coterie sacrificed themselves, and
that's a
then they sacrificed themselves for agony while I sacrificed myself for time and waited alone for 800 years. And I chose to wait because I loved them and I did not want them to be alone with their pain.
And I'm guessing was your group unwilling to sacrifice Alice, who made the expedited decision that they should still sacrifice themselves, or
Well, you have to see that we come from a different philosophical background. While I feel neither of you at the time understood what was going on, and I readily admit that this is going to sound 100% bonkers because, let's face it, it kind of is. The tree is a symbol of an entity far, far older than any of us could possibly imagine. And when one gives one's existence to said entity, one does what one thinks is best for said entity. Suffice to say, it's a symbol of Lilith. And as I'm sure your studies have led you to, good professor, we will do anything in our power to bring her back to this plane of existence. I met, were you Jen at the time or were you Sol?
I was in pain.
I met the aggrieved individual in front of us and was asked a very simple question. What do I want? And I can say with 100% certainty that were I to be in the same situation again, I would give exactly the same answer. I want to see the world bleed because that will bring Lilith to this plane of existence. From there, until quite recently, I had no recollection. It was just all dark. And then I woke up and was in timeline two, electric boogaloo, as the children say.
I always wondered what happened to you after you disappeared from my line of sight.
I went to the hall in coma after all of the games as everything was starting to fall away. I won't bore you with the details. I don't think it would add any context to the understanding of the story we're sharing here. It was not pleasant, but then existence is unpleasant, and I'm quite okay with that. Maybe not 800 years worth of unpleasantness, and maybe not broken bones and busted organs, but it was unpleasant.
I mean, I guess this is like sacrifice, as you said. So like they sacrifice this, we sacrifice that. Would you consider 800 years if you had the option again, 800 years to get your friends back, do it again, or
I think I would still do it again, but I would not. I would do it so that they did not suffer alone, but I would not go back to them afterwards. They are not who they once were.
Did they know that they weren't suffering alone while you were sitting there for 800 years?
Don't know.
I mean this with as much respect as I can muster. It was a fool's choice.
Probably. But the tree also told me I wasn't allowed to leave, so I stayed.
So
um,
you told yourself a narrative that fitted your
It made me
necessary
feel better.
position. I'm so happy for you.
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hurt, but it was horrible. I can't imagine 800 years. How have you can't even fathom it? But yeah, this also at the same time, I guess it depends. Like, is this a choice you made, yeah, out of guilt of what they did or necessity as well? But I guess, yeah, it's irrelevant now as well. It got made and you did it.
I mean, I thought I was getting sent back to the start of that week in that timeline and that we would get another opportunity to fix what damage was there. But we ended up somewhere else and I ended up with different people who I still care for, but they are not my coterie.
What about you, Alice? If you were to be put back in that position, would you still make the same choices you did?
Absolutely. I would say in a heartbeat, but
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
I don't know. That's
I don't think that there was anything for me to fix. I think it was a lesson to learn. It took me a little while post fact to learn what the lesson was, but I think I've learnt it now and I'm on to the next lesson.
what's the if you're happy to share a current lesson you're focusing on? Is a time or reality jumping Nosferatu spend their nights ruminating on.
I spend my nights ruminating on the fact that regardless of who we choose to surround ourselves with, we are alone. And the sooner we make peace with that, the more capable we are of actually engaging our nights or days, as it were,
Hmm,
in more productive and meaningful ways.
interesting.
What if you find meaning and connection, though?
Have you met me, sweetheart? Really?
You don't find meaning and connection. I do. And while
Connection is fleeting. Connection is meaningless over the aeons of time. It wasn't connection that kept you sitting there for 800 years. It was duty. It was a story you spun for yourself to make yourself more comfortable with the weight. It wasn't the connection. The connection was the impetus to make the story and nothing else.
I don't like it when you make me think like this.
Do
And I will never stop doing it. So you'd
Mm.
better get used to it.
It would
you
have been nice if you'd told me this, months ago, but
800 years ago?
no, I this timeline would have turned out very differently, I feel, if I had
You weren't
known
supposed
more.
to come back here. You kept putting out your pretty little posters. I kept tearing them down.
I came back because I thought that we had returned to the start, a different version of the same timeline, and that the same events were going to occur again, and that we were supposed to stop them. I thought that was why I had waited 800 fucking years to reset. I am more pissed about the fact that I waited 800 years for fucking nothing than I am about the fact that I had to wait 800 years at all.
Is there like a personified individual or something that if you were to say you're pissed at, so that's the symptom of that's the occurrence that you're angry about. Is there some where you're focusing that anger at?
I don't believe in God, so it is a general injustice from the world, the universe. I I am frustrated because I was told that I could wait for 800 years and go back and fix things and make things better. And instead, I arrived in this timeline with even less information and less connections than I'd ever had and could do nothing except try to keep these other versions of my friends from doing stupid shit and getting themselves killed.
Hmm. And
Perhaps the lesson for you in all of this is people are going to do whatever people are going to do, and there's nothing you can really do to influence them or change it.
Yes, there's a reason I'm taking a little bit of time to distance myself from everything.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. You finally got there.
You could have told me months ago.
What, and held your hand through all of this?
You could have told me that there was no repeat, and I would have walked away.
would you like? I don't mean to, I've just met the two of you, but if you spent 800 years sitting holding on to that fact, if someone after that 800 years popped up and said, "No, it's not. It wasn't for any reason. It's not going to happen again," off you go. Would you think genuinely you would have listened? Genuinely, again, I'm not trying to make a pun there, but would like, or would you have gone? Is it a lesson you had to learn, or is it something you're happy to? If someone had told you and gave you that information, would you have listened to it? Because then I guess does mean that 800 years is immediately nullified.
I think I would have made different choices.
Since when has anybody ever listened to what I've said and taken it with anything less than a hefty grain of salt?
Maybe have a bit of Malkavian in you.
Right.
uh, the theory has been posited.
Hmm.
Do you still hold on to the same faith of for Lilith returning? Is that still the goal for you, Alice? Whatever that might.
Always. Why do you think I'm shifting everybody out? The Sabat keeps sending tiny, insignificant creatures, and I keep watering the tree with them. It will happen.
And
It
when
may not happen these 100 years, it may not happen the next 100 years, but I will continue to water the tree in the hopes that should something happen to me, someone else will come along and continue to water it. And eventually the rising tides will happen and Lilith will walk the earth once more.
what's in this? I've read a couple of there's information about Lilith, but again, I think after reading like a copy, I don't know if you've read that, but the broken winged crane, supernatural apocalypses. Lilith's one seems less of an apocalypse than ever. What's the goal for when Lilith comes back? Lilith walks the earth. What does Lilith go about doing? I mean, Kane's according to what the scraps I've got, Kane's either going to be angry that there's kindred and wipe them out, or Kane's children are going to eat Kane and still be angry about everything. Is Lilith a bit more, I guess, reasonable the term, or is there what is Lilith looking for?
The same thing we're all looking for at the end of the day: revenge and understanding. Cain stole the gift of immortality and magic from Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
She just wants to right all the wrongs.
So is this another case of all the magic and the supernatural or the immortality gets reclaimed and anyone else who has it is getting reclaimed with it, or
There are stories. Whatever you've read that's written down, I would not take as gospel.
I
We don't tend to write our things down. We hand them down by word of mouth. But the old stories suggest that those who have been studious in learning their lessons may meet Lilith and come to understand their part in the goals for the world, whatever that may be. And there's also stories that no, precisely, Lilith will reclaim the magic of the world, and anyone who's hanging on by a thread utilizing it will cease to exist.
So I guess what if we look at mainstream humanity, just Lilith reclaims it all, and mainstream humanity just keep on going unaware, or Lilith does Lilith have a plan after reclaiming everything?
I think given what happened to Lilith while she was amongst us previously, I would suggest that, and no offense to your good self, that the patriarchy would get smashed to smithereens, that womankind would rise, and that we would take our rightful place at the top of the pecking order and fuck all men in a very not literal sense.
Hmm. Fair.
I wonder why that leaves people like me.
That's the $64 million question.
It's a lot of $64 million questions,
That's a lot
Alice.
of money going around in the world.
Hmm.
Well, that's my goals. What about yours? Why even bother? Why not walk into the sun, Sol? Why not put a bullet through your brain, Tristan?
Uh, I think a lot of times putting bullets through the brain did occur, but
Very messy.
I mean, after weirdly enough, after like in timeline one, as we're calling it, occurred, this one's for the most part a lot more enjoyable. Then there's no like no one's as for the majority, at least in my purview, killing and grabbing and blackmailing and killing again. I mean, we never humanity doesn't need kindred to do that. It's like of course I had never met the two of you, but knew of you back then, and
Mm,
less so now. That well knew of you, but didn't know the context of everything. But
mm,
it's still the Inquisition was the biggest issue to humanity back then. I think, regardless of the plane, there was the whole plane events. There was safe houses, angry La Sombra, ghosts, and the kill counts and bodies piled up still were absolutely weighed down on the side of the Inquisition as they were to anything any of you were doing. I don't know whether you were actively seeking to or not, but it's
I,
definitely there.
I did try and tell Tanya that you lot were monsters too, and she thought I was being facetious.
Trying to
I mean,
tell,
I was a little bit, but
I feel like again, trying to tell Tanya, it's the same thing as telling Soul after 800 years. By the way, that was for nothing. It's trying to tell anything, Tanya anything is like going down to the ocean and telling the tides to reverse. It's absolutely an exercise in futility, but I guess I couldn't say a waste of air. You don't really need it, but trying to tell Tanya's. It was a resounding hope that one day Tanya would learn from what they saw, but I unfortunately from what I'm viewing right now and what I've seen, I just see Tanya. Then again, maybe that's my fault again for not telling Tanya about everything previously, but the same mistakes as previously as well as the other Inquisition did. Everyone's looking at their own individual needs of what, but what I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it without trying to betray confidence, but it's another case of just the face-eating leopard defense. When I put the face-eating leopard down, I never expected that it would actually eat my face.
mm,
Everyone just keeps it like, well, let's kill all kindred until the someone I know becomes the kindred. In which case, no, this is a special rule, as
mhm,
if all kindred, weren't not kindred at a certain point.
mhm.
And and again, maybe I'm jaded or cynical, but an unfortunate reality like whenever you go out to hunt something, and I don't like really the term hunt. I feel like it's an antiquated term, but whatever, it's what people use. You kind of have to look at it as something you're hunting, not as just an end. The end goal is they're dead. They're really taking something's well, not life, ending something's existence. You still have to look it in the eye and know that's exactly what you're doing. And I don't think a lot of people in the Inquisition are ready for that reality. That's why there's so much bureaucracy. They can red tape, green tick, stamp, and consign.
Signed in triplicate.
it's
Well,
far too clinical.
yeah,
Mm,
it's easy to end things when you don't have to do it. But
mm.
I mean, I
Yes.
can hope again that whatever Tanya ends up doing works out. But
Well, they're
I hope.
very intelligent and very adaptable. I think they'll be fine.
Oh, I don't. It's not them. I think that I'm worried. It's not that I'm worried about. It's more the potential of what they can become without. I don't want to say guidance because it's not my responsibility or anyone's responsibility. They'll be able to make their own decisions. But I think Tanya has a very idealized view of individuals, and I think that's going to get taken advantage of. But then by the same token, we have the same thing when we have the Charlies and the Locks of the world who have an extremely jaded view of individuals, and that in turn leads to its own issues as well. So, do you trust people entirely? Do you, shut yourself off from trust and make your decision based on just whether it's good and evil? And do you just sit on the fence and read your books? Who knows to say which is the right one, which is the wrong one? I would say time would tell, but after 800 years, it still isn't telling. So who knows? But yes, yeah, I think out of all the people, if you had the opportunity to tell, telling Tanya is, yeah, it's like breaking into a house and making sure you're telling the family cat that the food's poisoned.
That's a that's a delicious metaphor.
To the cat, probably.
At least until it's no longer delicious. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But well, so your goal is still the return of Lilith
And
and
to keep
Sol.
learning until such a time as it happens. Yes.
Yeah. Sol, what about you? If you had hypothetical end goals of what would you want? I don't know if you got to ask the same question that Alice did, but what do you want?
At the time, it was I want to help my friends. That was the question I was asked.
Hmm.
There was a guardian at the tree before I got there, and that's what she asked me. My response was, I want to help my friends. I want to fix things. I want to make things right.
Mm.
And I got fucked over by my answer. So I think
No, I think you got exactly what you asked for. You just didn't ask for the right thing.
true. I am, I don't have a goal in mind. I am taking some time for myself to figure out who I am now because I knew who Jen was,
Hmm.
but after 800 years and however many months, I'm not sure who Soul is anymore.
Is it interesting, like an enjoyable taking this time for yourself? Do you think?
I've only just started.
Oh, fair. Okay.
I my first act of or my final act of my old life was to call Alice one more time. And this time she picked up.
Well, this time I thought you deserved me to pick up.
Hmm,
I mean, really, you land back in Alice Springs, and the very second your feet touch the ground, the proverbial hits the fan once more. Do you think I was in a good mood to receive your phone calls?
probably not.
Once again, you come to my home and you fuck things up.
I didn't touch shit.
You brought them here.
If
You
I
brought them here.
No, if I had not come with them, they would have ended up here anyway.
And I could have dealt with them, but because you knew what had happened previously, I couldn't deal with them.
That actually doesn't make any sense.
I could take them out, but because you have the memory of what happened previously, you were directing them in ways that I couldn't account for.
I wasn't directing them, though. I couldn't tell them. I couldn't bring myself to tell them until very close to summer or coma or whatever it was fucking called. That stupid event. I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want to ruin things again. And instead, with not telling them, I probably made things worse. They were entirely self-guided for that first month. They did whatever they fucking wanted. I was just trying to figure out who they were.
Interesting. Hmm.
The only reason I didn't want to tell them is because I had been forced to tell at least one person back in Sydney, and she was convinced I was insane. Because telling people that 800 years ago and 1 week ago I've already done this makes you sound like an absolute Looney Tune.
Maybe there's a little Malkavian in you.
I was fairly convinced that everyone thought I was one. For the record,
Were
I
it
don't
not
know
for my
what.
face, perhaps the same.
For the record, I actually don't know what I am anymore. That is
How
800.
intriguing.
Those 800 years took my clan from me, so I'm
Ah,
nothing.
how freeing.
It is a little bit, but I do kind of miss the connection.
You and your goddamn connections.
It's
I
in
grew up in a clan of family, of pack. It's how I was introduced to this world.
Whereas I was born alone, I died alone, I continue alone. The people around me are tools to further my goals and nothing more. But at least
Mm,
I'm transparent about it.
fair enough.
it's interesting that your sacrifice that you gave was 800 years or taking time separated from everyone in isolation.
Mm,
Here at the idea of like at the end or return of the cycle, the choice you've made is you've elected for time separated in isolation.
yeah,
Another cycle.
Hmm.
I
Perhaps you'll
hate it.
learn the lesson from this one.
Or maybe I'll die, who knows?
Well, haven't you already?
Finally,
Ah,
final death.
I mean, we could just both walk into the sun. It'd take me a little bit longer than you, but we could do it.
Mm, not yet. Maybe I'll come and find you later, once I
It's
know
a
who I am.
date.
Sounds good.
that is it. I would be eager to attend.
Just no photographs.
Don't even need to bring candles.
You'd have two very large ones. What
Um,
about you,
yeah,
Professor?
what's
What's
your
your
plan?
goal?
Well, again, similar. I didn't. That's interesting. So sort of again more of a fence sitting situation. When I came back, I had no reason to believe that this would be repeated. Everything was very different. I did my best to make sure everything was very different before I got given, about 40 years or so to prepare for it. So tried to change everything as drastically as possible.
Mm.
And it's bizarre, same thing. I didn't tell anyone, you know, I didn't want to give it any credence or thought or whatever. It happened, and I don't know. So no point in discussing it or talking about it. Same thing, like I had no proof it happened for me, and to be a bit more of a situation when your heart's still beating, going and saying to everyone, previously when I was hunting supernatural creatures, and a magic user grew a giant tree to end the world, but don't worry, a wizard threw me down a hole, but they brought me back and I got better, so I'm here now to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
I feel like they would have locked you away.
Yeah, probably. Um, so I just kind of continued on. And anytime so many people I interact with, people seem to have some vague idea, or again, quantum entanglement, some idea that something passed through, that something had happened. And the more that people see, it's like a scab. The more they kind of scratched at it, the more it then started to come about again and again. But I don't know. Again, I think it's a failing of the Inquisition as an idea to see themselves as some sort of resolution or solution or things like that.
A
I told
panacea to the virus that is supernatural.
exactly. I told Maxi long ago now when we had a discussion, and it was a weird, somehow the conversation turned into opposing philosophies of the Inquisition, whereas the person in charge back then threatened Maxi and said, we're capable of killing you all, which again, telling a vampire I could kill you, it's like it's I don't know, it's like telling a fish I could, put water on you. It's like been there, done that. What else is
Yeah.
new? But it was more of I said to Maxi, the presence of the Inquisition was it's much like a pharmaceutical company, like they're the symptom, and
Hmm.
the current idea is apply Inquisition liberally and hope situation removes. But
Call your doctor in the morning should symptoms
yeah,
continue.
exactly right. Eat plenty of apples, keep the Inquisition away. But
There's a cream for that.
a weird idea that especially creatures that are immortal but live a lot longer, so this weird sort of hubris of even though humanity's only or the mainstream humanity discovering the supernatural, it's decided that it's just occurred as if you haven't all been here the whole time anyway. And
Mm.
so being like, oh, this problem has arisen. We need to come up with a solution. It's like, well, it's been happening the whole time.
Hmm.
And, sure, you could maybe educate yourself a bit more and figure out. But again, it's like, going into the ocean, finding out that there's a new breed of shark and being like, well, this shark just appeared. We better eradicate it so it doesn't affect the ecosystem. It's like,
There's a reason you're the second Inquisition, though.
yeah. And
That's
unfortunately,
just
I imagine there'll probably be a third, but
none of your agencies communicate effectively. If only you had a Nosferatu at the helm.
yeah, well, we probably do, to be honest, with my saying. But uh, yeah, it's the same thing as everything, factionalization, what people's goals and wants are. The same thing, money. I'm sure there's people who see it as another cash cow. There's people like myself who just want to read a few more books about it. There was people like the last person in charge of my cell who just wanted to watch everything burn down and hope that it alleviated the pain inside. Who knows? But I didn't really. I just more came in just hoping to do a little bit better than, or my view of better, is to say whether it's better or not. But yeah, as I said, the last Inquisition that cell I was in, like any kindred, but I don't know how often all kindred need to drink and different feeding habits and stuff like that. But even assuming you drained one person a night, absolutely spit in the ocean compared to the body pile that the Inquisition was racking up itself in an attempt to stop human casualties. But
Even
Shockingly enough, we don't
outside the
actually.
Inquisition, darling, humans kill more humans than supernaturals ever could and get
absolutely,
away with.
yeah.
Shockingly
You
enough,
really are your own worst enemies.
you don't actually need to kill somebody to get enough blood every night. I
No, but
used
We
I used
don't?
I used Tinder as a hookup app for free food. You order food right to your door.
Mm.
It rocks up.
I've, I kind of have to do. Could you not use Uber for the same thing?
I don't want to eat delivery drivers. And sometimes I get sex out of the Tinder app as well.
Ugh, honestly. How you are not in the Church of Lilith, I don't understand.
Well, nobody ever thought to induct me.
Consider this an engraved fucking invitation, darling. You would make
This one
a
literal.
delightful addition to the Lillans.
When you say fucking invitation, is this one a literal sense, I guess, based on what you're
Oh,
saying?
I think Sol or Jen knows exactly what I mean.
Oh, you're an absolute menace to society, Alice.
You say the sweetest things.
Um,
Hmm.
I guess yeah. For Engel, it's bizarre because I never thought of an immunity. I thought I'd achieved my Engel. I guess to a degree I have, and hoped at the time the Inquisition was less homicidal. Um, I can hope that it stays that way, but it's reached a point, which is, I guess, probably why I thought we should. I'm here now as opposed to whoever's in charge of the Ark or Garden or whatever, just Pine Gap. I don't know why we needed to rename it. I don't know why there's the more code
Oh,
name.
it's definitely the Ark. I had a wee little chat with Blair,
Uh,
the moderator.
with this one,
Very interesting. I won't go into details, but
I I would definitely think you were Malkavian if you did. But yeah, I've reached an interesting conundrum, I guess, because it's almost an inverse of what Soul's facing. Well, not even an inverse, really. It's probably the same, but I don't really have the same option of isolation because by virtue of my own existence now, well, I like, as I said, the more people that seem to give influence to the what happened before, the more likely it seems to come about. So then, already by extension, judging by threats to reality, the three of us are probably there's probably greater ones out there right now, but big fish in small ponds. But then also additionally, unfortunately, because of while I didn't eat any cookies, um, and the children that I was looking after, the Fae have gotten a fair opportunity at getting their hands on the Inquisition management if they wanted it.
Did you
God,
make a
that's
deal?
I made plenty of deals, but there was only one of them which even going in, I knew to every other the deals that came up, we came well and truly ahead of. But then there was one that got made in, I guess it's a matter of checks and balances, the cost of a whole bunch of innocent quote unquote children, Tanya, Locke, and Binks as well. At that time, I don't think they really knew it.
The
Um,
fucking reporter.
yeah, it's journalists.
Ugh.
It's for them to be allowed to not, I guess, suffer the same fate as Winters, they needed to have, no, it's not a surefire bet, but the opportunity at a shot at Inquisition management via me. So I get to sit and have, well, a coffee, which probably
Mhm.
one of the first few coffees I get, and figure out what to do because uh, I, we've got on one hand whatever the mage that brought me back, hoping to use me as a linchpin for whatever purpose they have. No doubts, destruction, mayhem, and horribleness for everyone involved. There's the changelings and what they want, and who knows what sort of shit show they'd get if they got access to the Inquisition. You'd probably turn up and they'd everyone would be wearing, multicolored clothing and dancing around to rave lights. And who knows? And
That sounds like fun.
If I thought it would do anything, I would wash your mouth out with soap. I could not imagine anything worse than the Fae having access to the Inquisition.
Oh no, that sounds horrible.
it wouldn't be a fun time, I don't think.
The party sounds fun.
It'd probably be fun for a brief period and then horrible, but who knows?
I think it
Mm.
would just be an utter fucking nightmare. Emphasis on the nightmare, not the fucking.
So,
But the emphasis on the fucking too, based on what I saw.
Well,
so at any point
Mm.
in your near future, a fae is just going to appear and take over your life, or what?
Sort of. At any point, not even the near future, at some hypothetical point in time, there
Mm.
there is a Fae running who, well, you may have met them. The Fae was in charge of Coma.
Okay.
Can assume will take control of me
Hmm.
and everything that is there, and I instead get control of them. And while I've had an opportunity to take leadership of a giant labyrinthian organization of bureaucracy, I can't even imagine the nightmare and headache trying to take over a Fey
Carnival.
organization would be. Yeah, but I kind of also imagine that he would elect to do so unless there was some sort of fangs, sword, bullet, or blades flying at high velocity towards his head, and then electing
mm,
to enact that. So that's also an issue that, and while everything I've researched has given me a lot of insight into it, what ends up coming down to is you can't actually break. You can get around it, but you can't break a Fey deal. So,
Can
like
you get
that.
around it by being technically dead? It's a
No,
good way to get around a lot of deals.
it's because it's take control of my body as opposed to. So as long as my body
Mm.
is still around,
Yeah.
there are
that's,
ways to fix that.
yeah, so, that's really what it comes down to. And
We'd have to rot you pretty quickly, though.
I've got friends who can do that. I hear the Hakata in Melbourne are particularly efficient at decomposing bodies.
I mean, I could just also shred you with my claws.
Probably, absolutely, but also there's a lot of information. I mean, with the huge amount of research, I think unfortunately the very extensive library that's at the Ark at the moment is heading towards being used as just fuel for the fire. As if I can imagine what the Inquisition are going to do now that they think that we're compromised. Obviously, my approach to them doesn't work.
Oh, so we're going in for book burning now.
No, that was the old MO. The first enemy is understanding and empathy and intelligence.
I
Mm.
think that should not happen. I
I would love that not to happen.
dislike damage to books immensely.
It sounds like a bad idea, just in general.
If they did, they used to say if you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. I wasn't really aware of the level of irony that had fully, but I used to have that on a little frame in my office, and we had both. Didn't know how much of a garden or a library we had, but yeah. So it's really I'm trying to figure out a way of keeping all that information going, but
Mm-hmm.
also at the same time removing myself as a threat to humanity.
So what you need is time.
Not even
Or
time. I think
transcendence.
time. Yeah, time. That's because the longer, more time passes, the more likely, suddenly I'm going to wake up to really garish architecture and decor of a fake tent and whatever's trying to kill me at the time. And instead of trench coats and black coffee, my body will start working around into Technicolor, blasting whatever loudest music they can find and trying every recreational drug that there is in existence, and then
No,
screaming to everyone about how they should do it too, which whatever.
well, at least we'll know that something's up.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be subtle. But I think also if there's any opportunity for the Inquisition to not return to the first Inquisition Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, as said,
What about the Americans? There was another group of American Inquisition people
yeah,
that were coming.
I think they're going to be probably headlining the charge of.
Hate that a
Oh, I
lot.
love it. Time to play a little game of cat and mouse.
I think the plan is to keep moving in my book.
Send them up to Brisbane, deal with some of the Sabbat up there,
Mm,
make them think that they've eradicated Alice Springs kindred by no one ever coming back here,
duly noted.
and they'll move along.
There's also
Yes. Once they're done with the Sabbat, they'll move down to Sydney and then down to Melbourne and then over to Perth. They will eradicate everyone we've ever known. And I'm not fond of that idea.
I think it's an inevitability as long as we continue to be overt about our existence, but then, of course, that is easier for some of us than others.
Subtlety has never been the strong suit of some people.
this does that fall down to Darwin again?
Ugh, fucking Darwin.
Why would you want to go to Darwin for anything?
There's an installation out there that's quite interesting.
Under the sea.
Mm.
There's also the issue, and you know, I know it looks like a pocket watch, but I've cultivated a pretty extensive vault of trinkets and doodads, I guess, as they like to call them. But the it's one thing, I guess, the Inquisition being armed with, I don't know, like all sorts of things that just make Supernatural's life a nightmare.
Mm.
Sunlight bullets, silver stake guns, things like that. But then also you add in the like restrained spirits and ghosts, a pocket watch that can let you punch through a concrete wall.
I
Uh,
can do that.
Mm.
a little scrap. I'm fairly certain that this is just stone that's had rock salt put into it, but everyone and back at the Inquisition is coming up with what sort of crystal it is and what it's pretty entertaining as well, for having them try to guess what a star sign I am when you're not even born in this reality, but that's their thing.
Oh,
That's take a shotgun bullet to the face and be completely fine with it, but
mm.
I don't really want fundamentalists screaming about how they have the right to kill whoever they want to, whenever they want to, and then the means to do it very, very easily.
When the Fae takes over your body,
Mhm.
are they bringing their powers with them?
They are.
Oh, that's really bad.
So
So
you're sent to go and deal with the Fae with none of the advantages?
Of
yeah,
being a Fae.
I get to I get plopped into a pinstriped suit body, and as I said, a whole bunch of nursery rhyme books, and they get all Fey powers, all my wardrobe, my books, my library, but then they get access to the vault as well. And I guess whatever in my memory, well, not memories, but as I know how to activate all of those artifacts and use them, they get a pretty advanced repertoire there as well.
We absolutely cannot allow them to get access to any of that.
Yeah, I hate that a lot.
So that's more the conundrum I'm facing.
Do you have a plan?
Not really at the moment. I'm still kind of ruminating on it, but yeah, I don't. It's kind of a hard one, really, because I haven't really had a opportunity to discuss it with anybody because I'm doing my best not to tell anyone it happened.
Oh
But
my God, let's workshop it.
Hmm?
brainstorm, yeah, yes, but as I guess interested parties.
Mm.
be your existence. Well, I'm sure the two of you are very capable, but of, and I'm not trying to say that anyway, but eventually either the options would be run or go down in a blaze of glory because or hide is there too. That's there's definitely a even Nosferatu. Well, I'm not trying to has just say anything about ability here, but there's lots of artifacts there that instead of Nosferatu hiding, have them as a big glowing beacon over it's over there. Here it is. This is where it's gone. Follow it this way.
And then
Mm.
we nuke them from orbit.
Ah, probably. I wouldn't say nuke from orbit, knowing. I mean, I guess the benefit there is the hubris that they'll probably get dressed in their best white robes, pick up their torches, get whatever books they've left not smoldering, and start charge at you, screaming, going, "Over here, the Nosferatu's over here, charge!" But I guess unfortunately, all it takes is one of them to get lucky, or one night for you to be unlucky, and that's all it takes. So yeah, I'm not really sure to be honest what to do. There's because unless, like I said, the Fae who I've made the deal with just it doesn't leave coma. So and getting into coma and taking someone out and then getting out without
It's
issue.
pretty difficult.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
nearly nigh impossible. So that's removing that piece from the board isn't really an option. So yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's eventually just going to come down to does he do it before I come up with an answer, or is consigning the world to Second Inquisition Part Two, but Part One.
So really, you just need to get rid of your body.
Yeah, well, essentially, I need to get rid of me. I need to not exist, which
Well,
It
no,
sounds like
you
a
can
suicide note.
exist, but not your mortal coil, so
yeah,
to speak.
yeah,
Preserve
that
your mind, but not your body.
yeah, essentially, which I think that, somewhere, whatever that timeline, if they're still going, there's a whole bunch of people jumping and cheering, seeing as damn near every person in that timeline was trying to figure out how to get me to stop my existence. So I guess it's the same irony of Soul electing to have isolation. I get to elect self-destruction this time. But I don't have an immortal's perspective, so if either of you have any input on that, I would love to hear it.
Would you like an immortal's perspective?
I mean, it's one of those. I feel like that's just adding fuel to the fire. So instead of a extremely supernaturally armed, highly resourceful, and I say resourceful, not resourceful, but authority in the Second Inquisition being powered by fey ability and desires, I'm now an immortal, supernaturally armed
The
vampire.
Fae are also quite immortal.
Oh yeah, true.
Mhm.
But with all the extra fun and goodness that Kindred have as well.
You
True.
are aware that, insofar as the supernatural are concerned, we are fairly low on the packing order, right?
Quite squishy by comparison.
Yes,
Some
but
of us more than others,
Mm.
it's
but yes.
it's more of a why give it anything extra? Why it's like attaching a bayonet to the gun. Like it might not do that much, but it's just giving it something extra. And I think that I have no doubt that he's able to keep tabs on me. That given the
Mm.
opportunity, like I already have a, which I'm unsure how that really came about. Well, I know how, but still, positive relationship with Squizzy, who amassed
Ew.
probably more resources and power than anything I've ever seen before now. Although I'm
Well,
sure.
certainly now that he's the last of the big bad roaming. Yeah.
Mm.
So having access to that as well, I don't really want to think of what the Fae would do with that ability. So I imagine the second I get, well, not even a second really, but like after, a certain period of adjustment time as a kindred, suddenly who I if anyone encountered me again, I'd be a kindred with a lot more brightly colored outfits, doing a whole bunch of weird reality bending.
But the changelings, such as they are, don't work well with our particulars. When we were at
Most
Coma,
supernaturals don't cross over well.
no, no, no. But when we were at Coma, a lot of their facilities didn't work for us because we didn't have what they wanted, what they could use.
Souls.
Well, they had to default to memories instead of anything more rich. experiences, because our experiences are diluted, and this is just a working theory, because our experiences are diluted over time, the extended period in which we exist, they're not as fulfilling, for
Mm.
want of a better term. So it could be that the mere embrace is enough to get you maybe not off the radar, but definitely less appetizing.
That's a good point. I guess that if, again, assuming that one was successful, there's also then the extremely powerful reality bending, time hole kicking mage that has ability or control over me as well. Not still, and no amount of research I've done has been able to turn up anything on that, but that's mages, I guess.
Good
Mm.
luck. I've not been able to make hide nor hair of anything to do with them. I think that's mostly by design, though.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they're a lot more secretive than any other group.
Sadly, there's no Shrek net to hook into for mages, at least none that I'm aware of.
No, we used to
And
have.
every mage I've ever met has been an absolute royal pain in my fucking ass. And if I ever meet Eight again in this reality or the next, I'm going to tear her fucking head off.
Send me an invite to that one. Nine, however, well, the less said about that, the better, I think.
At least those two had gone through puberty. The powers of a mage in a young child's tantrums. Chicken
That
nugget.
sounds bad.
It was not fun. But
I
yes.
believe Dasha had an encounter with that one. Not entirely unpleasant.
No, I think again it's more of a one of those situations, they're angry at their parents, but lovely to others.
Ah, I'm vaguely familiar with that. Nine did have a period like that.
Uh,
Eight was just a bitch.
Yes, agreed.
that's really like I don't know. I've tried. There's magics, but again, like of all the memory transfer or personality transfer things that I've looked into, it's more of a shot in the dark, and it might work, and they might have your memories or things, or they may not. But it's yeah, as I said, I guess it's probably going to be end up a priority thing of eventually I have to go and walk out into my own proverbial sun, or find or create another situation where three other, or maybe one other, and the two of you get yeeted into yet another timeline and done it again. And except for this time, I'll be walking around screaming, "I'm here to end the world."
Let's call that plan B and come up with something else in the meantime, shall we?
Yeah.
Mm.
There is another alternative.
Mm.
Well, I'm sure you're aware there's a little thing we can do wherein we take the essence of someone after we've drained them completely, and then the partaker partakes of the partakee and attempts to integrate them into their own psyche.
You're
Thus, they
talking
continue. Yes, yes,
you're
I am talking.
about diablerie.
I mean, it negates the body issue. It keeps the memories and intelligence going and the knowledge. And it wouldn't be my first rodeo.
It's
Don't
def
give me that look. You know precisely who I am.
it's yeah,
True.
it's something I thought of. I guess meeting the two of you, it's sort of probably a bit more of an actual consideration. The reason I'd avoided that up until now is again I didn't want to give memories of another reality and everything to another kindred and then having this the same thing go again. But I mean, the two of you know it all already, so
And I've been rather summarily told to walk away from it all. So I'm not about to re engage.
hmm.
Mm.
I mean,
I, of course, will never embrace because I don't think we've got time enough to wait for days, months, weeks, years, whatever, for, well, all of this
hmm.
to happen to you.
Yes, beauty takes time.
Precisely.
Bones popping and the organs busting is something I only wanted to experience once.
Are
I
you
mean, you will
sure?
die.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, that's unfortunately, I think that's kind of just been the. I mean, I'm human. That was the end goal, well, not the end destination the whole
It
time.
was bound to happen at some point.
That's, yeah.
At least this way you get to choose the method.
And as I said, I got an extra 40 years, so we're just trying to explain that to people, like when you're kindred, so you get to that. That's probably not a
An extra 40 years is a
answer
drop in the
That's
ocean.
but try to
really
say to someone,
cute.
I look at this age, but don't worry, I'm actually like, in my 80s. These are
How
very
quaint.
Mm.
Aragorn moments. But I guess, I mean, then I mean this with respect, giving access to, the artifacts that I've got on me. I mean, your plan is to be taking out other supernaturals coming here anyway. It can't, I guess,
Precisely.
I don't know what I mean, I have a vague idea of feeding habits, but not one for wanton, let's just go snacking out in the street for fun.
Oh, no, no. I feed from those who very much deserve it. Murderers, people who do things to other people against their will. Look,
Hmm.
I have standards, all right? They might be low, but they're still standards.
That's a lot more than most kindred I've come across, present company accepted.
How many kindred have you come across?
Too many. Um, I mean, as I said, those cages were very, very full back in the day. There's you name it in the menagerie, I'm sure I've come across it. I mean, I guess also whether the argument can be made of, like the term that people use nowadays. I know they have their own terms, but they're kindred of the East as well. I've dealt with them that much. They were again, they weren't altogether unpleasant, but that's also definitely something that I think is has its eyes on Alice Springs as well.
Oh, I'm sure they do, and that will be a very interesting day when that happens.
Mm.
Look, it's
It,
an invitation.
yeah, and is there any sort of, I've noticed it as one who's never been embraced and getting an answer
Mm.
isn't necessarily, again, previously plenty of people gave their answers, but force embracing kindred in the Inquisition is an idea shut down this time. But that's how we ended up with, yeah, just ghoul leaders and God, capitalism undying. Previously, is there any sort of memory transference or anything like that through embrace, or is it just a goes one way and it's when the blood goes in, you don't get it, but when the blood goes out, you do.
It's a very specific act of diablerie is a very specific act. Um, it doesn't, from my knowledge, I've never embraced someone, but from my knowledge, it doesn't. There's not a lot of transference there.
My embrace was very different to Sol's here, but as far as I can remember, being on death's door, such as it was, I did not experience any transference from my
Mm.
sire, other than,
Mm.
well, the gloriousness you see before you.
And from speaking to Florence, she never indicated that there was any transference on my end to her.
I guess, yeah. It's bizarre that it's probably the most reasonable and logical answer, and I have some thoughts on the matter, but I'd love to get if you're willing. I'd say I would accept that invitation of allowing, not allowing, that's the wrong word. I would accept the invitation of being diablerized by Nosferatu that we've been trying to capture for a long time. Uh, I just said don't really have the time to go through the transformation process fully.
It's a
Yeah,
lot quicker for a gangrel to,
yeah.
or
Is that something
nothing
you would be
to
into?
embrace you. Yes, I've, I mean, I say yes so easily. It's something I've offered before in dire circumstances.
Mhm.
Up until a few months ago, it wasn't really something that I had ever really considered.
I,
But
if you're willing, I would accept that too, if you were happy to agree.
I'm happy to agree. and to
Ah, the
let.
very first instance of you being whoever you is. Such a vast departure from previous you. I'm
Oh,
shocked.
yes, my
Shocked.
first act of being my own self is to embrace the enemy and then let an old friend eat him.
I mean, in terms of if using the metaphor of what we're supposed to be learning, I mean, you get to form an attachment and practice letting go. And the idea of Alice's claim of we live constantly alone. I mean, I can look at what I've read in Diablerie, but I'm sure I'll probably prove incessant buzzing in the back. So I don't know how alone fully it will be, but
I'm sure you'll
Well,
be
maybe
exceptionally annoying.
I'll learn something about not being alone, perhaps.
hmm. All right. Um, I'm gonna finish my coffee, I think then. I guess what the time frame of it is. There anything we need to prepare? Probably shouldn't do it here, but to prepare or
If you want to grow your hair out, now's the time to do it.
no, it's foolish to pluck out one's hair for sorrow, as if grief could be assuaged by boldness, but boldness came on all the same. It's
Well, I guess we should agree to timelines. Do you want to experience this new self for some time and then I come and find you, or do you want it done immediately?
um I think maybe immediacy there's a few things I want to put into order first, but also at the
Mm-hmm.
same time having the resources of being a kindred would help me stay off the Inquisition radar while I sort those out. So I would like to organize a time just on the hypothetical idea that immortality makes me backtrack, which I mean I can't. Even if I do a backtrack, there's just a whole level of threats to reality that start to come into play. So
Could
trusting
you even access the garden by being kindred, or would you set off alarms? Sorry, it's called the Ark now, isn't it?
Well, previously would set off alarms, but that's because I said which information free boons and such. They've turned off all the alarms because, as I said, like that some of the changes Tanya's brought in Kindred to the Inquisition. It's I said, it's just the start, the tipping point that there's Kindred in there now, and we've got a La
Mm.
Sombra in there, and everyone swears La Sombra is
Hmm.
not going to be a La Sombra and do La Sombra things, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Maybe I'll get to play chess again.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I have a very nice set. I'm trying to think of who. Yeah, I don't really know. You can pick from any of them. I guess they'll all have their different versions of it of how to
Not the
play.
Arbiter. I hear he's a doddering old fool now.
To be honest, in my opinion, he was originally as well. Just because you're a ghoul and you look young doesn't stop your brain
Oh.
stagnating. He was in love with.
Cirrhosis of the liver will do that to you regardless of age.
Yeah, that gun was just a bit too his thing. But yeah, I
All right.
guess
Well,
yeah, when three meet again in thunder, lightning, or in rain.
My, a literary soul. This will be fun.
all
I do have
right.
a nice library, so.
Well,
Hmm.
let's give you a day to get your shit together.
hmm
And
Take my last shits as they were.
Alice, would you prefer I do this not in your city?
As it is an attempt to save the city,
Mhm.
potentially from itself, and calling Praxis over Alice Springs. Suck on that, Saracen, you fucker. I grant you permission to embrace in my city.
Excellent. Then I'll give you my address where I'm staying tomorrow night. When I wake, we'll do this.
All right.
I would give it at least a month just so that your being can settle into its new life or unlife.
Hmm.
But if
Um,
you,
no, we can do a month.
Mhm.
I've got the artifacts here, so I can show you how to use those in the event that should the Saracen to, or at least in wardrobe, tries to take over my body, that you put it down pretty swiftly.
If you start wearing a banana yellow suit, I'll diablerize you myself.
I was going to say we need a trigger to see whether or not you're in danger. I think the banana suit is the trigger.
Yeah, if I
I'm
start with
just
bright yellow.
we'll just have a in your wardrobe just a banana yellow suit, and if
Yeah,
you one day decide to put that on, we'll know that something's wrong.
we'll
Yeah,
know.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Hmm.
And then I guess what we when I what's a rough time frame? The same moon. That's it. I'm channeling my inner Maxi from one, but I mean I might have to die, so I guess I can be a little bit dramatic. The same moon in the sky as tonight. We go. Yep. Not even
I
going to get
think
into
that
something.
sounds perfect.
That
All
sounds
right.
like a plan.
I'm gonna go open that bottle of whiskey that the arbiter left that first time that I said I'd leave to there. So I also apologize if I taste extremely, extremely potent tomorrow.
It's all right. I haven't had a good drink in a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, I will have my last drinks, I guess.
Hmm. Sounds like a plan.
Terrific. Well, I guess is there before I die? Is there any? I guess I've asked plenty of questions of the pair of you as well, and requests. Is there anything I can, outside of the artifacts and library and extremely whiskey tasting blood, anything I could offer or anything I can do to solidify or assist?
There was an individual attached to one of your agents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I send you details, can you give me an update as to the whereabouts potentially?
Yeah, certainly.
Marvelous. They were someone very close to me in the first timeline.
Another life.
Another life.
Um, I would say like I have some potential things I would like to request of people hopefully not being killed, but you know what? Again, I'm just gonna go on faith and trust that it'll work out. So, yeah, if
Mhm.
you send me that, I can do that tomorrow as well. I'll get those updates. But I mean, all things going the way they were. If you want to, you can go into the Ark and get the updates whenever you want to yourself. There's
Mm.
again there's some design things they've kept. There's an elevator from that salt mine up into the bowels of the Inquisition that just with a secret elevator. It's that one's my fault. Well, I will. I guess I'll see you tomorrow night. If there's anything I can offer you, I don't know if I bring flowers or do you bring flowers? I'm not really.
Oh, would you like to romance me before I take your life?
You know what? I do like a good flair. I flair of drama, and I won't lie, hung a fair bit of black on Maxi for that poem. So maybe I'll prepare my own death poem.
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
well, now I have to have the flies in the room.
Of course, the flies are going to be in the
You'll
room.
probably be able to you'll be able to remember it.
Well, it was lovely catching up with both of you, but I think we all
Mm.
have work to do, don't we?
Yes, preparations.
Mm.
Hmm.
I'll see you soon, and I'll see you soon, and I guess it's bad.
I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you in a month.
Saying hello at the start didn't really convey the level, but I guess saying goodbye doesn't do it either. But yeah, I'll see you both soon.
Let's goodbye
Excellent.
and farewell.
Mm.
Yes.
All right. I'll yeah, so shoot me the address, set me those details. I'll get that fixed up for you.
I'll text them to you.
I'm going to go eat something extremely unhealthy.
Eat your favorite food in astronomical quantities.
Yes.
Because for the next month, any solid food you eat, you will throw up.
Uh,
Mm.
most things I consume aren't solid anymore anyway. Excellent. Have a good rest of your evenings.
Definitely. Well,
So where to from here?
I mean, continuing to move around. That was always the plan. I don't
You
think
know,
I'll take him to
once
Melbourne.
once this is all said and done, you can't ever come back here unless it's part of my family, right?
I know.
The invitation is there, but if you don't give me a heads up, I will take you out.
I will, in the next month, I will
Hmm.
consider your invitation.
If it's a sweetener to the deal, we
Mm.
have safe houses everywhere, so you could at least have one point of call before finding your own space. And not just here in Australia.
Hmm. Maybe I will go back to where my human family are from.
Oh,
I've never been to Ireland.
my, my. I have not been back to the homeland since my embrace.
That's a very long time, Alice.
Oh, yes, but it's crawling with Second Inquisition, and I think we've all seen how that goes.
Mm, correct. No, I was born in Australia, so I've never been to Ireland at all.
I hear it's beautiful this time of the year.
Could be worth a long trip in a pine box.
Mm. I hear there's no snakes, so you've no fear of
Hmm.
Saracena rising.
Oh dear.
But you should travel. It broadens one's perspectives.
I think I have been trapped here too long. I spent decades trapped by Saracen in Sydney, and then I spent 800 years trapped in a salt mine, and then I trapped myself in the same trappings that I thought I had escaped. I trapped myself because I hoped, and it was well intentioned, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think it was cruel of me to project who they were onto who they are.
It was, and I'm glad that you finally realized that.
It took too long, unfortunately.
Well, I am hoping you've learnt that lesson and won't make the same mistake again.
No. I have left them with a way to contact me. Is they may not be my coterie, but they are still my friends. But it's up to them to reach out.
That's a good attitude to have. And if you travel, you'll meet new friends. But who knows, you might find that family you're longing for.
Maybe. We'll see how I handle being a parent.
Ugh, I couldn't imagine anything worse. Give me a mage child to look after any day, thank you very much.
Oh, I don't need a superpowered little spawn. Having kindred abilities is going to be superpowered enough. I wonder if he'll inherit any. Because, again, I'm not any clan anymore. Will he be clanless like I am? Or will he revert to gangrel?
I guess that's another one of those $64 million questions we've all raised.
I'm either going to be very rich or very broke at the end of this.
Maybe a little of both. Certainly, if you spend any time around me, more of the latter.
Yes. It was good to see you again. Even just
Likewise, darling.
it feels like closing the end of a book. I'm not sure if I liked the book, but it was engaging to say the least.
You never come away from reading a book any less of a person. Even that fucking Twilight left me with additional personality aspects I don't think I wanted, but I've got them.
Oh, it was really, really good for business, as one would have it. Because a lot of people were very interested in vampires, and pretending to be a vampire on the internet got me very well fed.
If I see a spike in sales of body glitter, I will know what is going on.
I'm just gonna roll in it.
Ugh, copies of the craft world. Not. You can embrace kindred in my city. You cannot bring body glitter. That's where I draw the line.
Duly noted.
Put that shit in Perth where it belongs.
Be nice to Perth. I'm from Perth.
I will not be nice to Perth. Their barren leaves a lot to be desired.
That's my sire.
I know.
Florence is wonderful. She
Well,
just had,
she is.
she's just eccentric.
And remind me again where she placed you?
Oh, that was not her choice.
Every choice is a choice, darling.
Hmm.
Every choice, even to sit somewhere for 800 years, though it seems like you don't have any other option, is a choice.
Hmm.
Anyway, I've got some miscreants to go and deal with, and you've got, I suspect, an apartment somewhere to set up.
Just a hotel room, and I've already ordered takeout tonight. I don't need to do it again.
Uh,
Hmm. Anything else? Or shall I see you in a month?
I'll answer my phone from you from now on.
I would appreciate that.
If you get stuck, you call me.
If you need help, you call me. I doubt you ever will, but
You never know. I mean, how many futures have we lived through? Who knows what it beholds next time? No, I will.
thank you. I'll see you later, Alice.
Bye for now.